The business is weird. Okay, I'm gonna give you 3 to 5 reasons depending on how much time I take on each one. Okay, I didn't want to plan this because I want the business to go from your head to your heart as fast as possible. So I'm trying not to make this as scripted as possible. Okay, and the number one reason why this person told me the business is weird is they said, hey, you want us to grow. Okay, and why is that weird?
Most companies don't care about it. Because most companies don't care about your growth, they care about your profit. See? They care about how much they make.
She said, give me that.
Be fair.
Hey, Mia.
I wouldn't say it. I have a hand up here like you.
I love it. I love that it was word for word what Mia said.
I got you still. So I heard her, and I didn't actually process until I was talking, and then I was like,
She said it better.
Okay. All right. What's another reason why this business? Why is that weird? What else? Can someone give him a pen?
I'd say most bosses get rich off people staying stagnant.
Most bosses get rich off of us staying stagnant. That is very true. I do get richer if you're an entry level.
So a lot of times, like bosses want you to stay as stupid as possible, so that you don't figure out the game they're playing, like that you are just an employee and that you can't actually move up.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
I was gonna piggyback off of that, and just like bosses are that superiority.
Don't answer.
Yeah, that word. And they want you to be under them. They want you to stay under them and not get a chance to like bypass them.
Right? Can we agree most management is positional management?
Yes.
And what I mean by that, they're like, hey, I'm the manager. You should listen to me. And then they go back to their office and they don't know how to do what you're doing.
I don't like that.
How many of you have had a manager that you're better at the job than them? Ooh.
They felt that bump.
That hurt. You know, short story time. So before this, I was a manager at Chick-fil-A. Okay, my pleasures were fake. Okay, right. And with that being said, I had to train this guy. Okay, so there was a GM position, right? Whopping 100K. Only took over 120 hours a week for 60 years. Boom. And you move to a salary base after 20 years. Which is actually you get a pay cut because then you have to work 125 hours a week and you get paid less. It's a whole thing, right? And so I trained this guy who came in and he had this job hunting license. You know what job hunting licenses are? Degrees. Okay, that's what we call them. So they don't. Can we agree? Degrees don't guarantee you a job. No, they guarantee debt. Unless you're physically or academically very inclined, then you have to pay for college. Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay, and if you want to know, colleges are commission based, but their commission is called tuition. Okay, and so you work for 4 years. Okay, you pay your dues, and then you get this job hunting license. And are you like I said, are we guaranteed a job?
No.
No, but you're guaranteed a piece of paper.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and so this person got his job hunting license, right, and was at my store. He was like 20 years older than me at the time, and so I trained him on everything I knew how to do. Everything I knew him doing, he's like, hey, this guy's coming in from a different branch, can you train him? I was like, boom, done. Because I want to go above and beyond. I want to show the owner, right, I want to show the branch manager there, that the executive, the regional manager, that I'm willing to do more. Because I'm going for the job. And then he gets, two months later, after he's polished up on everything, he gets hired for the position that I was applying for.
That ain't math.
And I did the math, right? And so he got paid $46,000 more than me. So if you're doing the math on that, that's $750 a week more than me. And when I didn't know how to do something, and I went to person A, person B, right? I said, hey, superior, how do you do this? Guess what he told me?
I don't know.
He said, you train me. And I was like, this is kind of messed up. And if y'all been in that position?
Yes.
And y'all go to y'all's manager and your manager just knows how to make a schedule and that's about it. And then like when they're actually doing the actual I'm talking about food service here. Okay, when they're actually doing on rush hour, the best place your manager can be is away. Because they just mess up everything. I felt like that too, okay? Like you had to bag everything. Like we used to do 182 orders through the drive-through an hour. Okay, so if you're doing the math, that's one order every 24 seconds. And when my manager was on there, it would drop to 96.
Oh.
And I would sit there and I'm like,
I'm helping.
move! And why am I talking about this? And it's because, right, here, we don't do positional management. I'm not going to tell you to do something that what?
You would.
That I haven't done. Because every manager, every owner, Richard, me, Alexis, Zach, right, Ebony, Estelita, you're going to see these people who are running companies now who 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 5 months ago, a year ago, we were doing the same thing you were doing. Does that make sense? And it creates a sense of like no seniority. Like why would I be too cocky being like, why would I go back to door to door? I'm like, bro, that's what got me here. Why wouldn't I go back to it? Make sense? Mm-hmm. Like y'all ever seen a small business owner?
Oh,
Yes.
Are they willing to wait the tables?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, you're the owner? You ever see like, oh, like who owns this restaurant? You're like, oh, I do. And he's like waiting the tables and like taking orders at the same time. Is he the one and cooking the food, right? And eating the food? But is he too like, oh no, I own this restaurant. Why would I wait tables? Like no, he's like, well, I'm gonna just do it because I do it the best. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we want you to grow to that position to where you have the actual credibility, you have the fruit on the tree to have the credentials to talk about what you want to talk about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We will never put you in a position to where you haven't earned your stripes in a sense. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, now the second weirdest thing. The people, he said, that person told me, I already spoiled it, it was a he. Okay, the second reason why he said, he's like, the people around me want me to grow. And why is that weird?
Usually it's competition.
because you're used to competition not being friendly.
Competition usually not friendly. Okay, what else? Go ahead, Bug.
Usually there's only like one position, so no one, you all have to fight for it.
Okay, cool, perfect. You hit it right on the nail. How many of us usually would, at our last jobs or been at a job where corporate, usually this is how corporate works, which is not a bad thing. I want you to understand, corporate's not a bad structure. A lot of, like 90% of America is that. So it works, agreed? Mm-hmm. Corporate America works, okay? It's just a very, very elongated time to get to where you want to be. Okay, I have no hate towards it whatsoever, okay? My parents are in corporate, but what I want to show you is the differences and compare and contrast, okay? And so when they say that people around me to grow, in corporate America, usually you can't move up until the person above you, what?
Retires or dies.
Retires or dies. And it sounds like very, very morbid, but can we agree that's true?
Yeah.
But there can only be one chairman, or like a couple of chairmen. There can only be one president. There can only be one CEO. There can only be one CFO. There can only be one fill in the blank. There can only be a set number of that. In our business, is there a set number?
No.
I disagree. There is a set number. It's just at the rate we're growing, we're not going to be able to hit that number anytime soon. Does that make sense? There's going to be a point where we eventually fill up cities. Okay, and that's why when people ask me like, well, what happens when Verizon gets all of their owners? I'm like, we just get another client. Like, oh, okay. No, Verizon. Okay. Okay, and with that being said, right, the availability, right, because the people want you to grow. Because think about it like this: if we can all create an environment of where we're trying to grow, how easier is it to build that team? How much easier is it to water a plant in a nutritious soil rather than trying to go ahead and build a plant in a concrete slab?
Wait,
Does that make sense? And that sounds like you're like, well, duh, Danny, the soil. But sometimes we miss that analogy in the fact of like that's your office. Like your office, like your culture, your coworkers, your cross lines are the soil. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because is your downline only going to talk to you? No, Whitty's not going to only talk to Esther. Right? Think about it like when someone, when a plant spreads its roots, does it just go straight down? No, where does it go? Spreads out. It's going to talk to cross lines. They're going to be like, Whitty's going to go to Portal and be like, yo, so what's this about?
I'm like, let me tell you.
But if the roots spread out to concrete, is the plant growing? This is why some offices struggle. Because the competition between each other isn't healthy. So when Woody goes and asks Amber something in a bad environment, Amber's gonna be like, why would I help you? I'm trying to get promoted. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
And you stunt that plant's growth, right? You don't allow the fruit to bear, right? But in a good environment, right, where we have a culture that's conducive to growth, I want people to get just as excited for Jacob as if he was your downline, even though he's your cross line, if he gets qualified for leadership. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I look for the people who clap during shoutouts. I look for the people who get excited to high five. People always wonder, like, why does Danny do shoutouts? I look because I want to see how people treat other people when they're winning.
Yeah.
Okay? I want to see, like, I always take people out. Who have I ever shared a meal with? Cool.
We had
I need to
chips
share
and
more.
salsa once.
Yeah, chips and salsa once. Fire. and you're like, well, Danny, why don't we just do the one-on-one at the office? The reason why is because, like, the number one thing Richard taught me, my upline, the upline, right? The way he taught me was like, hey, I want to see how people treat waiters and waitresses. Go ahead.
I said no, but you actually shared lifesavers with me one time.
I did share last. Breaking bread. That was only like your second day.
I literally.
I was just gonna say the reason that number 2 was weird for me when I first got here is because I was used to a culture where the people around me had no enthusiasm to grow. Like they just were very content where they were. They were fine being stagnant. Like they didn't have that like enthusiasm to push forward or push to be something that more than they were. Which to me was strange because I want to grow, I want to do other things, I want to like move past where I am. But like they were seemingly so fine. We're just spinning their wheels basically.
Spinning the wheels. I like that analogy. Right, spinning the wheels. How many of us have had that kind of culture? Where this guy's like, where you're like, yeah, I want to run a business, and then the guy behind you like is just like.
I want to flip this bird.
He's like, bro, like just fry the fries. And he's just like. Right? Or that person when you worked retail while you're folding clothes and you're just talking about your goals, and that person's like.
Very accurate shirt fold.
Right. It was a very yeah. And I know it's weird because I was that person. Like think about it like this: the people who doubt your dream are the people who sold theirs. Okay, the people who doubt your dream are the ones that sold theirs, right? Like you're gonna end up hiring the people that doubted you one day, hands down. Because I don't mind sharing this story with me, right? This job requires a lot of work. This job has long hours for the first 6 months. That's just the way it is. Okay, you can either not talk about it or you can talk about it and be okay with it because that's not it for the long term. Okay, now you get to make your own schedule and it's a pretty sophisticated part of life. And with that being said, while I was going through the training, my college buddies, my team, my friends, right? While they were working their 9 to 5s, while they were working their part-time shifts, while they were working their jobs, okay? Right, they would be like, Danny, come out with us. And it would be Friday, 8 p.m. Okay, and I'm like, I did do 20 this week. Right? And I would sit there and I would contemplate it. And I know y'all are contemplating it because I was too. That's why I love this position because y'all can't hide it because I was there. Okay? Same thing with Richard. Richard's like, what'd you do last night? I'm like, nothing. He's like, I went through the training. I'm like, dang it, he did. Right? And I told him the story. Right? I'm like, my friends really want me to go out on Friday nights, but I know we have a mandatory leaders meeting at 9 a.m. the next morning, and I don't want to show up with my downline seeing me tired. I don't want to be the reason why they got the opportunity. And he's like, keep saying no. Say no 16 more times and see how much your life changes. And it's funny because now my friends' Friday nights are my Monday through Monday. And that's not to brag, okay? That's just to help you build credentials. Like the same friends that want you to hang out, the same friends that were doubting your opportunity are gonna be the same ones when you're speaking at a conference, sliding up on their messages saying like, so what do you do now? And I'm like, the same thing I was doing when you were making fun of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? And some of you are battling that maybe right now, where the people around you outside of this office probably don't want you to grow. And it's not because they're bad for your life. It's not because they mean ill. It's just because they sold their dreams. they're on the 40-40-40 plan. Anybody know what the 40-40-40 plan is? Okay? Right, yeah, so before this is what the 40-40 plan is. You work for 40 hours for 40 years,
To retire.
and after those 40 years, you earn 40% of your paycheck. Okay, that is what 85% of Americans are on that plan. Okay, you work for 40 hours for 40 years a week. 40 years a week. 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life, and then after you 40 years a week, okay, and you earn 40% of the paycheck, and you could barely even live off of it. Think about it like that. Think about if you went to your past job and you stayed there for 60 years. Okay? Some of you, I haven't even got to the part where you're supposed to say, think about how much we had a penny pinch. Bi-weekly, I would make $8.60 as a manager at Chick-fil-A, and that was because I spoke Spanish.
So that was a little perk.
Yeah, a perk and privilege of 65 cents.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Fancy.
Okay. Now think about it like that. Think about if you were to do that till 65 years, and of course there's pay raises, but there's pay raises every 5 to 8 years, majority. So let's say you got maybe 6 raises. Okay, now you're maybe earning like 22, 24 bucks an hour. So now you're probably making $1,400 a week. $1,400 every 2 weeks if you're in my position, and you do that for 60 years and you retire. Then you get 40% of that. That's $250. That's $250 a week. Raise your hand if you know someone. Raise your hand if you know someone who's retired. Keep your hand up if keep your hand up if that person who retired had to apply for another job. Isn't that crazy?
They apply back at the same job.
You walked out and then walked back in.
I'm only here for half a day.
Hey, you walked out with your box, set it down, and then came in with your resume. That's crazy.
They literally plan it. They retire, then they wait how many months, and then they collect whatever changes over, and then they come back at a part-time status. So they literally will leave and rotate right back in again.
It's crazy. And it's like what's the point? Isn't the point of retirement to retire?
Kick back and relax.
Yeah, like I'm trying to sip sweet tea on my porch.
On my recreational floor to floor.
Yeah.
I want.
Like I don't want to be retired. I don't want. Like I went up to someone. I'm like, hey, I was at Walmart. You ever any of y'all shop at Walmart and like everyone's on break? I'm like, hey, where's this? I really got some of y'all.
You can only come in different parts of the day, and it's still the same.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. I'm like, hey, where's this? They're like, I'm on break. I'm like, so it went on break too? Or? I'm like, hey, where's the toilet paper? And they're like, oh, I'm on break. And they're an older person, so I sat with them. They're like, actually, you know what? I'll walk you. I'm like, thank you. Okay, so I'm like walking. Right? and I'm talking because I'm a talker. Hopefully that's okay. And I'm like, so how long you been doing this? They're like, oh, only a couple months. And I did the math. I'm like, you're at least in your late 50s, right? So I was like, oh, so what did you do before this? They're like, oh, I'm retired actually. And like I hate that I made it the reaction, but I'm like, but you're working. He's like, well, retired from my actual job. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what's going on here? Right? And I'm like, what did you do? He's like, oh, well, I was actually an engineer before this.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. And I immediately, like, I sat down. I remember I was sitting there, like, toilet paper on my lap in my car. Just toilet paper on my lap. I didn't even put it in my passenger. That's how much I thought about this. And I couldn't wait to tell you all this story. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow. Like, I got my major in civil engineering. And if I had to, like, bust, like, if you don't know, like, civil engineering is a lot manual labor. It's a lot, because you still go to, like, the actual project sites. You do a lot of that. And especially if you're a project manager, like, your back is blown by the age of 35. And anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody know? Cool, okay. And I'm like, wow, like, if I did all of that, and then I retired, and if I did that, and then I retired, and then I had to work, like, stock the noodles at Walmart, like, I'd be pissed. I just stock the noodles. Or like, I'll walk people to toilet paper while on break. They gotta be pissed. You have something to say?
I feel like the older generation is like programmed to that they don't know what to do without work. So when they do retire, even if it's like they're not gonna find hobbies. They're just thinking like, what can I do to take up my time? All they can get is work.
And I'm gonna talk about why, because the third reason why this person told me, like, the reason why our business is weird is because he's like, y'all teach us how to work for ourselves.
No way he said those words. He said these exact. He's saying that these exact phrases.
Why did I spell 4 like that?
You spelled weird wrong
You spelled
too.
weird wrong. You put the number.
It's EI.
Now y'all say that? YouTube is gonna say it for 20 minutes.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
I before E except after. That's such a lie.
I
How do you spell weird?
except after
Where's the C?
I was just checking out offline.
Where?
So the full rule is I before E except after C, except for sounding like A as in neighbor and brain.
That's too much. English
I was a teacher for 5 years.
Yeah, you're about to say something.
Wait,
I'm Mexican.
I was just trying to say.
Who was talking about offline?
That's what I'm saying. I was just trying to say.
So to get it, it's EI.
Yes. Yeah.
Bro, everyone we're speaking Spanish from now on. We're very simple. Okay, we teach us how to work for ourselves.
He said, good guy.
Who said that's a lie? All right, Rosetta. Rosetta Stone, calm down over there. Okay. All right. Now that we're done with Duolingo. Okay. All right. So the third reason why this person was like, hey, you're really teaching us how to work for ourselves. And I love the reason why I bring that up is because what he said, I feel like the older generation just only could be programmed to work. Yes. Okay, because usually after high school, we're taught to apply for college. And we go to college in order to get a job. Okay, but before we get a job, we need a
License. Oh,
job
sorry.
hunting license or a
Degree.
Okay, and we work for X amount of years to retire by what age?
65.
And they're called our
Golden years.
Golden years, yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Stay,
Hey guys, it's real silver.
take out the G, maybe.
Golden years.
Okay. Stay with me. Hey guys. Stay with me. Okay. And with that being said, right, it's like how are we taught that just to be programmed? And I want to talk about this. Okay, the oldest system, the most outdated system. Does anybody know what business is the most outdated in the entire life? Go ahead, Scott.
Probably school.
Schooling system. The schooling system. It has not been reformed or changed in over 87 years.
Crazy.
It's more than that.
It's a lot more. I give it benefit of the doubt because then they enacted a standardized test 87 years ago. Okay. So with that being said, right, more than 87 years, but for benefit of the doubt, 87 years. And with that being said, it is the most outdated. Do you know how much has changed in 87 years?
A lot. Everything.
I think I was checking
Think
like
about the phones and cars and.
women couldn't vote before that. Like that's how much has changed since
You couldn't even
then.
have your own, you couldn't even have your own bank account or credit card until 1960.
Right? And isn't that kind of crazy? And so I want to talk about who funded that schooling system. Okay? Does anybody know who funded it that doesn't have never seen that meeting?
Okay. Oh, okay.
You know?
I'm gonna send them back in the class.
Rockefeller. Good job.
Rockefeller, you know it too. Good job.
She's fine. She's fine.
Rockefeller. Now, does anybody know why Rockefeller rose to riches?
Yes.
He's just a business magnate. Like he was a very successful guy in oil.
Yes, oil. He owned 95% of the world's oil at one point. 95. So imagine instead of like Exxon, Shell, and I was about to say Verizon. Instead of Exxon and Shell and Sheets and all that, it was just Rockefeller, and 7-Eleven. Like right there. Okay, and one stall, and out of order. Right. And so with that being said, you know what's his most famous quote? If you were to look it up on Safari, the most famous quote from Rockefeller is this quote, and I would love for y'all to write it down. He says, "I would rather have a world full of workers than a world full of thinkers." And then spend millions of dollars funding the schooling system. I would rather have a world full of workers than a world full of thinkers. And what he just said, hey, I feel like the older generation was programmed, we were programmed like that too. It's just now we have an excess amount of excess amount of knowledge to find other ways, other strands of income. Now we know crypto, now we know passive, now we know real estate, now we know stocks and bonds and all this stuff, right? But before then, you wouldn't gain that knowledge unless you knew someone. So the availability for that income was still there, hands down, but it's just the access for everyone to know that was very minuscule. Does that make sense with everyone?
Yes.
Okay, and with that being said, Rockefeller said, I want you to work for me rather than think for me. And universities, 95% of the universities were built after that time. Okay, and so the schooling system isn't bad. The schooling system isn't, it's outdated, hands down. It's not wrong. It's not morally or ethically challenged. It's the fact of it just teaches what this business is trying to unteach. So when you try to go and explain to friends, saying, hey, you should work with us, and they're like, bro, well, why would I do what you do? You go door to door. They don't see the back because they're still on Rockefeller's agenda. Okay, and when I say that, it's like you gotta realize that like a lot of this business, what it's doing for the first 2 months is unwiring a lot of things. Because for 18 years, we've been trying to teach you how to work for someone. It's the reason why school didn't teach us how to do taxes. Didn't show us how to apply for loans. Didn't show us how to go ahead and create a Roth IRA account. Didn't teach you how to open a business, starting a business, being an entrepreneur, right? But it taught us Pythagorean theorem. One joke, and everyone just goes. Okay. And the biggest one that stood out to me, and this will probably be the last, the biggest reason that stood out to him and me, and I just know this person, right, is gonna grow in this business, and they're probably like, they're doing really good at having a poker face, okay, because they're in the room, right? Who is this? And the last thing they said, the growth is uncapped. And I was like, so is this business weird? Or is this business just right for you at the right time? Right? And I told this person, right, and this is a very late night conversation.
This is a good business.
This is a good business.
This is a good business. There's good money in this business.
Now listen to my slang. My saying is way too much. Okay, and I was like, okay, like let's build on that, okay? Because I wanted this to be the last reason. Because I want to talk about how the growth is uncapped. Because it's not 6 months and then you do my job forever. There's a lot more. But I just don't want to overwhelm you. But just know there's a different tier after you get promoted. The same way it's entry level, level 1, level 2, mastermind, assistant manager, owner. The same way you go into a different bracket when you're in my position. Does that make sense? Yeah. And we're going to talk about that on Friday about the different tiers after ownership. But I want to talk about why this person thought the growth was uncapped. This person took it from a different level. They said, hey, the client isn't telling you how many people to have in your office. And I'm like, exactly. They're like, okay, so Danny, can I ask you what the worst office looks like? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And I showed them the chart. And then can I see what the best office looks like? They're like, I'm like, yeah, for sure. Me. And I was pissed because I didn't show them us. Okay? Right? I showed we're second to best. And with that being said, they're like, so what do you see is the difference? And I'm like, how big that person wants to grow. And then something like, I saw this guy's eyes open up, and he was like, so Danny, we don't have to like each other. And I'm like, no, that's kind of funny. He's like, I was like, technically, he's like, no. Like, what you're actually saying is like, you're gonna give me the best advice, because if you make money, we make money. Does that make sense? Like, I won't ever give Bug the worst territory, the worst advice, or anything like that, because if she doesn't make money, who else doesn't make money? You. And I want to talk about that, okay? Because the biggest thing I want you to talk about is every one person that installs to those little situations over there, okay? Verizon will pay that off as how much?
10.
Okay? Now, with that being said, out of that 210, if all of us were in level 1, so level 2s, you got demoted, entry levels, you got promoted, boom, cabin. Okay? Welcome! Woo! Okay. Right, we all got paid, well, how much?
90.
90. How much of that goes back to the owner?
120.
120. So this is rep,
That's owner.
this is owner.
Good job.
Everyone with me?
Yeah.
And he says, I showed them this diagram and they're like, okay, so can I just like, can I play around with some numbers? And I'm like, bro, let's do it, right? And you should see my board last night. Okay, so with that being said, right, they're like, okay, so let's say you got 2 people in your office. I'm like, okay, so 120 times 2 people doing 3 sales a day, 6 days, 6 sales a day, times 6 days a week is 36 sales off of 60% retention. That means 24 sales are being delivered. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everyone saw how I did that quick math? Big shot. Okay, cool. So $120 times 30 sales at the end of the week.
2000.
Oh, sorry, 24 sales.
2,880.
2,880?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what goes back to the owner. Agreed? Okay, now you don't have to take out payroll because we already split that up because 90 already went to the rep. Does that make sense for everyone? Yeah, okay. And you're like, well, Danny, how much does it cost to run a business? Can we agree? Like, these lights don't just stay on by solar? Okay? No, no one's in the back just cranking it. Okay? Like, we cost. Okay? It costs on average anywhere from about, when you're a new owner, 2,000. When you're a seasoned owner, okay, about 6,000 a week to run a business. They fluctuate based on how big your office is, okay? How fast you want your Wi-Fi, how much recruiting you do, how many ads you have up on social websites like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all that. Make sense? More ads, more people, less ads,
Yes, sir.
less people. It's the owner's choice, right? No one has to run a 40-person office. No one has to run a 60-person office. No one has to run a 10-person office. So here we are. So let's say this person, can we agree they probably don't need the biggest space if there's only 3 guys? They're not saying, hey guys, they're saying like, hey Crystal. Oh, we got a team.
We got a driver and a passenger to
We got a driver and a passenger. Bonnie and Clyde. Type of team. 3 Musketeers is the army type of team. Okay, stop. Alright. So, let's say they're on the lowest and they only spend $3,000 a week to run a business.
That's not even.
How much does that owner go back into the bank?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Negative.
Not nothing.
Negative
You're at negative.
You're at negative $120.
$170.
That's not bad.
You're like, wow, so people can fail in this business? Yes.
Yes.
Hands down. Like, people can't fail in this business. And this is not meant to scare you off. Because he was like, okay, but can I get more than 2 people? It's pretty easy to get more than 2 people. Raise your hand if you have more than 2 people on your team right now. Andrew, how long you been in the business?
3 months.
3 months. Sean, how long you been in the business?
3.5.
3.5.
Months? Yeah.
Years.
Days.
Years.
10,000 years. Right, and so I'm gonna teach you something that my accountant taught me. Okay, they don't put negatives on financial reports. They put parentheses. Oh. Okay, if you see parentheses, you'll see it in red. You don't want to see those. Okay? So if you're to be a stagnant owner, someone who's not working as hard as Sharon, as Andrew, as Alexis, as Zach, as anybody who's actively growing in this business, and you did that for 52 weeks, you would make
Negative 6,240.
Parentheses.
but not negative.
Parentheses. Bro.
Right, in red. You're down. You're in the hole. Now you're like, well, Danny, why are you talking to me about a business that's failing? Because the reason why the business is weird is because it's more weird for businesses to fail. But think about it like this: how many of us, how many of y'all usually when you want to open a business, where's the first place we go?
The bank.
The bank, in order to take out a
Loan.
loan. And is that loan you just pay back exactly what you took out?
No.
No. What is it called?
Interest.
Interest. Okay, so if you take out a $500,000 loan, it's probably you're paying it back in about 7 to 10 years. Does that make sense? So you're not making money for 7 to 10 years. This person who has 2 people only loses this much. So it's like the reason why the business is weird is because even the bad owners don't lose out by that much. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay, and he's like, okay, well, indulge me. He's like, let's talk about a regular office. I'm like, okay. So we got back to 120. So let's say we not 38 guys like we have. Okay, let's say 10 guys. They can do 2 sales a day. That's 20 sales a week, which is times 6. That's 120 sales. At a 60% retention, that's 75 sales. Everyone with me?
Yeah.
Cool.
That should be 9,000.
I mean, should be. You have a calculator.
9,000.
It's not 9,000 exactly.
We got it.
Yeah.
9,000. It is 9,000.
You sure?
Yeah.
Did you put the zero?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Oh, that's wrong. Okay, but if they have 10 guys, do they have a bigger office?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they do a little bit more recruiting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say they do. Let's say they spend 5,000. So what comes back into the bank?
4,000.
4,000. And they do that for 52 weeks.
200. 8,000.
Just by having 5 more guys. And I'm gonna give you the best advice that I've ever heard now. Okay? I'm gonna give you the best advice I've ever heard now. It is way easier to run an office of 40 people than it is to run an office of 5. Because if one person calls out, let's say I have Jelani, Crystal, and Porto. This is my type of team right here. And Crystal's goldfish died, so she has a bad attitude, so she's not coming in today. Right? She texts me, she's like, "Hey Danny, my goldfish died. I need 2 weeks off." Okay? How much of the company is gone?
A lot.
75%.
25%.
25% of the company's gone. 25% of the sales is gone. 25% of the income is gone. That make sense? And do people notice when they're gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, "Where's Crystal?"
Good boy, oh.
You're like looking under the rug, like, "Where's Crystal?" Right, here, I don't think people notice that 10 guys are in Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah.
Like, we have 10 guys in Pennsylvania.
Right.
That's the whole company.
That's our whole company, okay? Right, and what I'm really trying to point out is like, hey, the growth is uncapped because the client only wins if you grow. You only win if you grow. The people in your office only win if you grow. Now, what stops you is the reason why this business is weird, okay, is not because it's weird, it's because it all depends on who? You. The business depends on you to keep growing. The business depends on Andrew to not get cocky, right? That he has 5 guys on his team now because he's still not in management. He's not earning a piece of the pie yet.
Right.
He's not earning owner's stroke on that. Right? They need him. Like, I don't need y'all to work for me or Zach or Alexis or Estelita or Ebony longer than 8 months. I don't want y'all to. And if